Why do data-driven initiatives fail? Why do some of our data presentations fall flat? It's because we're fighting some pretty powerful behavioral forces, two in particular. The first one is cognitive load or cognitive fatigue. What that means is people have executive function. We have the ability to focus on so many decisions per day before we begin to get fatigued. Every decision we make comes at an opportunity cost. That means that we can only take on a certain number of decisions every day that are very high quality, very high effort before we fatigue, and we fall back to use our heuristics. And our heuristics are not data-driven, they're just opinion-driven and sometimes experience-driven. And what we wanted to do is untrain people from using heuristics and retrain them to use data. But what are they seeing? They're seeing us bring them work. We are making it harder to make decisions because now we're telling them, hey, you've got to use this data. You have to do this extra step. And in their minds, users, viewers, senior leaders, frontline workers are all seeing more work. And that's all that matters. There was a study that was done where the participants were given an option. You can do a task that's perceived as a high cognitive load task, or you can receive a shock. And as the perceived cognitive load increased, more and more and more people, to the point where half of the people were picking the shock. It's crazy. That's what we're fighting. Anytime somebody sees you coming to them with data, if they associate data with a higher cognitive load, they will tune out. They will eventually get fatigued and they will stop using the data. And so we have to take that into consideration because everyone has a certain level of executive function. Now, how do we play into this problem that we have with cognitive load? Well, you understand the root cause. It's effort discounting. What people are doing is looking at this higher cognitive load task. You're bringing them data. They think it's more work to make decisions now with your data than it was before. And so they are looking at the level of effort increasing, and they're going to discount the value of doing that extra effort if there isn't some immediate reward. And so setting up immediate reward systems, these feedback loops, where if they use the data, they get some sort of an immediate reward, that takes the discounting, that effort discounting out of the equation. Now, putting that little extra effort into this process yields some sort of immediate reward. And you can give them gift cards. You can give them all those cheesy little things that don't work to really do retention, but they really work very well to get people to change their processes because they're these small instant gratification rewards like gift cards for coffee. Just dumb things like that. Even a leaderboard. Putting up a leaderboard and saying, the most data-driven decisions made today were made by... Those little dumb things work because now the reward is closer to the effort, the cognitive load, and people are more likely to use our data if that reward is closer to effort, not, well, if I use this maybe 2 weeks from now, the implications of a better decision will come around. You can see that distance between the effort and the reward. The further away it is, people with lower executive function are less and less influenced, more likely to effort discount. Second thing we can do is play into their heuristics. When you present data with context. Explain what it means, not just the data points. Explain the story behind it. Why do these data points matter? What is it that these data points lead to? What information, what insights, and help people make a new heuristic where the data is part of their heuristic. Not a replacement where it's data and then they've got to come up with something because they don't understand the context. They don't understand why that data is important to them and how to build a new heuristic that incorporates that data into it. The second thing we're fighting, limited foresight. We are terrible at seeing several steps ahead. We're absolutely terrible at that. Making decisions based on long-term implications. If I do this, this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. Normally, it's if I do this, we make that decision in response to something, but not thinking multiple steps ahead. And one of the main benefits of data-driven is beginning to see multiple steps ahead, beginning to see the implications of our decisions before we make them. And we're terrible at that. Absolutely horrible. So we need a crutch. And this is something else that we can do to make data better adopted by users, is to give them, as part of that data presentation, to give them some of the insights into the implications of a particular decision. So if you present them with multiple options, you can then say, if you do this, here's what is most likely to happen. If you do this, here is what's most likely to happen. And this ties into a little bit of that context and explainability. You can begin to say, if you change this data point, here's what happens. Here are the relationships between a variable and an outcome, or a decision and an outcome. You begin to incorporate, again, the data into their heuristics. And you take some of that stuff that we're really terrible at off their plate, which is the purpose of data in the first place. So the critical piece is context and giving them the ability to understand implications. If I do this, what happens? Giving them that basic framework is going to make them more likely to adopt data as part of their decision process instead of fighting it all the time. Because now they don't see you coming at them with work. They see you coming at them with a new heuristic and rewards for using this new heuristic, as cheesy as they may be. And they see you're going to help them become more confident in their decision-making process, not have to think 8 steps ahead, which is what they're terrible at. So if you use those approaches to overcome cognitive load, effort discounting, and that very limited foresight, you're going to be far more successful with your data presentations and with your data-driven initiatives.